Joining us on the broadcast is a very special panel of CEOs, Mr. Vikram Kirloskar, Mr. Sumant Sinha, Mr. S.P. Shukla with us on the broadcast, and we'll get Mr. Sunil Duggal as well as Neeraj Gupta in just a bit. All right, Mr. Kirloskar, let me start with you, sir. You're also wearing the hat of the president of CII. Help us understand, how does the industry view these measures? Do you think they are big bang enough? They are structural enough? Will they take us out of the comatose state that Indian economy right now is in and towards higher growth?
Just let me answer the comatose situation. Comatose situation, to my mind, will really change when people start buying. Spending money in my industry, in buying a car, buying a motorcycle, buying a scooter, buying a bus. I think for manufacturing, whenever they start buying, I think the comatose situation will change. What I'm hoping, although there's no direct spending which has been talked about, which will inspire demand, I'm just hoping that people will get confidence with this kind of announcement and start buying. So that's as far as comatose. We cannot start any of our industry, any of our supply chains until people start buying. Inventories to move up, and bulk of our supply chains are in red zones. So for me, going forward, health issues we've talked about a lot. Taking care. I don't want to talk about that. But going forward, to start is the first thing is supply chains in manufacturing from the manufacture of the raw material up to the sale of the finished product is very vital. Second is getting the labor into the supply chain so it's available across the supply chain so we can start to work. They also start earning money and hopefully they spend. And third is getting the cash flow through the supply chain. These three are very basic issues we as the industry have to focus on, and for which I hope the government, with all its announcements, continues the cooperation between the center and states. Gives instructions very transparently so that we have common policy at all levels across the country. The policies are clear, the instructions are clear, and we can go ahead. This is some basic stuff which I think has to be followed so we can get our economy rolling.
All right. So what does India Inc. think about the series of booster dose that the finance minister has announced is exactly what we will be discussing here. Sumant Sinha, let me bring you in, sir. How do you see the measures that have been announced so far? Your opening remarks, and then we'll come to the renewable space, the power space in just a bit. But how do you view these measures that have been announced today?
Hi, Gauri. Thank you for having me on the show. Look, I think that the measures that have been announced are very wide and far-ranging and cover a huge number of different areas. Some of them are tactical in nature, some of them are strategic, some of them show the government's philosophical thought process now going forward. And so in that sense, I would say that by and large, all of these announcements are without a doubt, very positive, right? The question only is, how much will they help us in the short run? To the point that Vikram was making earlier, we need to have an immediate booster dose given to the economy to get things kick-started, to get people to go out and start buying more, jobs to be protected, for interest rates to start coming down. So I think in some of those areas, perhaps more could have been done. And we'll have to just wait and see how some of the measures actually get implemented. I think in those areas, as I said, more could have been done. But I think in terms of giving a long-term roadmap to which way the government is thinking to, beginning to again have structural reforms in the economy, I think all of those are very positive. For example, just today, the announcement about public sector enterprises, I think begins to show that the government is thinking about reducing its role in business, which is something that the Prime Minister had talked about prior to the last election. And I think that's a very positive and very welcome step. They talked about things like doing business improvements, even a simple thing like listing Indian companies directly overseas. Those are all changes that are very welcome. And had to be done at some point. I'm glad the government has done it. The only question is, will they help in the short term? Not really. There are a few separate measures for that. So I think that long term, the roadmap is very clear and very positive. Short term, I think how much the impact is, but that remains to be seen.
Okay, so maybe this may not completely boost consumption, given that India is a consumption-driven economy. But Mr. Shukla, let me then ask you here, as opening comments come in, that in terms of the measures that the FM announced for defense yesterday, increasing FDI, automatic route to 74%, is that really going to be game-changing enough in terms of boosting defense manufacturing? And could that have a larger cascading impact as well? Or do you think that till technology transfer doesn't happen, we really are just, tinkering with a few policy measures and not doing enough?
Gauri, what is said is never waste a crisis. Crisis is a time when one can look at making long-term reforms, long-term changes. Before me, very nicely the stage has been set for our discussion by both Vikram and Suman. There are long-term things and there are short-term things. As far as defense and aerospace is concerned, there have been a series of announcements which will be beneficial in the long term. But there are short-term impacts also. So let us not forget them. Let me take up 3 items which will help in the short term and medium term immediately. Take, for example, yesterday's major announcement that there will be a separate budget for procurement of indigenous equipment and imported equipment. This has never been done before. India has annual defense budget of 4 lakh crore, out of which nearly 40% is for capex and 60% is for operating cost, which has been growing over the years. Operating cost is increasingly accounting for larger share of total budget. Now, if you look at the 40%, 1,60,000 crores, for the first time, Finance Minister has announced that will be broken up into 2 parts: domestic, local indigenous equipment and import. This gives an immediate visibility, transparency, predictability to the Indian manufacturers that I now know how much is the budget. I know that what can I expect for next 3 or 5 years. I can do my capital expenditure planning, capacity planning, production planning. Yesterday, another announcement made was to create a list for which only domestic manufactured products will be bought in defense. Such a significant announcement. Immediately, small and medium scale industries know that these are the areas where there will not be a competition from overseas vendors who might have been in the field for several decades, whereas now these companies can compete on their own merit in India, and they will compete with each other. It is not that there is no competition, but they will compete with each other and try to compete on quality, deliveries and price without worrying about being facing over unfair competition from overseas. Another announcement which was again very positive, again short term and medium term. We are talking about today is spare parts to be indigenized. Now, spare parts is such a critical part of any capital equipment in defense. So I would believe that there has been a fairly good mix in short term and medium term. It is these 3 announcements which will make difference. Long term always takes little longer, but let us say that we will see immediate impact of these measures in a year or 2.
Okay, so there may be some impact going forward down the stream in the next, maybe 12 to 18 months. Neeraj Gupta, before I bring you in, let me then ask this to Mr. Kirloskar. Sir, as I said, as President to CII, let me then ask you this, that were the industry's expectations met? Because, now we've come to the end of all announcements put together. The breakup has been given, all details have been given so far. Previous announcements have also been added up. Is the industry's expectations, have they been met?
I think there are a couple of areas which we had asked for, which I am waiting for. I hope something comes on that. One is some kind of support for the tourism industry, the planes, the airlines, hotels, restaurants, and that kind of stuff all across the country. I think it's an industry for no fault of theirs, for no lack of efficiency or no lack of anything, has been hurt very, very badly, and it's going to take a long time to get them working again. To get the country again moving, the economy moving, travel is going to be essential in the future, and we need a strong and robust travel sector and a tourism sector for business to start moving. So I hope something will come out for this part of the business, not just the 5-star. I'm talking right from the Daba level upward. Something comes out for this. Second area which we were hoping for, something will happen, is some direct money on the salaries for SMEs, MSMEs. But I think enough loans and other things have come in. They've also committed for payments from PSCs and government undertakings to be done immediately. I hope that can support that area. And the third thing we had asked for is also, right from the beginning, more cash transfers at the bottom of the social pyramid. I think some of that has been done. Those are items which can help with some demand at the lower part of the economy. It will also keep people more comfortable. But for me, the main thing right now is like demand for manufactured goods. But I don't have an answer for that. And the airplane, the airlines related, airline shipping, logistics was running, of course, but airlines related, tourism related businesses which employ a huge amount of people, a huge amount of capital as well. How can they be restored back eventually?
Okay, Neeraj Gupta, let me then bring you in before I get it Sumant Sinha on the power sector. Neeraj Gupta, how do you see the announcements that are, totaled up to upwards of 20 lakh crore for the, Indian economy? It has been across the board, from tax concessions to defense to structural reforms. Are you happy? Does this make you satisfied? Do you think we are on the course towards higher growth, or does this still mean that a lot is left undesired?
I would say that first of all, lot has been added by my fellow member, Mr. Shukla.
Right.
Yes. So I would like to
Okay, we'll have to fix that. I don't think we're getting your audio right now. We're going to fix that. But, Sumant Sinha, why don't you come in there, sir? In terms of power sector, there was a lot of focus yesterday, but that was largely not on renewable space, but on DISCOMs per se, where again there's been some confusion as to whether the 90,000 crore is additional input, additional funds, or has this already been budgeted for by the government, states are providing it, so on and so forth. But then the larger picture, as far as power as one of the key issues and the key sectors for us to really recover and grow.
Look, I think the government has actually done a lot in terms of announcements over the last 2-3 days' time. There have been two different tranches of announcements. On the very first day, we had the announcement of the 90,000 crore package of new lending by PFC and REC for the DISCOMs at somewhat concessional rates on the back of state government guarantees. That I'm pleased to say that PFC and REC have already now written to the states, asking them to take up their tranches of this loan. And I think if that does come through and if states do go ahead, then it'll be very positive, because that much extra liquidity in the hands of all the generating companies, whether conventional or renewable. So I think, as you know, the stress in the generating side has been increasing quite substantially, simply because the DISCOMs have not been paying on time. So I think that is a very positive step. Along with that, the loan, that loan also requires, along with it, some operating improvements on the part of the state, vis-a-vis tariff improvements, as well as putting in net meters and so on, which will hopefully improve the operating efficiency quite substantially. I think there's a lot of talkback coming from somewhere, so if you can manage that a little bit, that would be great.
Okay.
Now, in terms of, so that is, I think, a very big positive. The only little caveat there is to see that state governments actually do subscribe to that loan and package and go forward with it. Because the worst thing would be that the state actually say, this is not an attractive enough scheme for us, and they don't go ahead.
But then,
So that is
Mr.
something
Sinha,
which you have to
I'll tell you what most people want to know. Most people would like to, get answers to is that, are we then making, one of our crucial sectors like power lucrative enough for more investments? Will there be fresh investments that will come in?
I'm coming to that.
Yeah.
I'm coming to that. So look, along with this one scheme, the government also has the national tariff policy in the works. That national tariff policy has now been cleared by the group of ministers that is looking at it, and it is hopefully likely to go to Parliament and get approved, not Parliament, to the Cabinet and get approved within a month or thereabouts. Now that national tariff policy imposes a lot more restrictions on how DISCOMs are working right now, and therefore hopefully will go towards further improving the efficiency of the distribution companies. And the reason there is so much focus on the DISCOMs is because that is the end of the power chain that actually takes money in from end customers. So that is a part of the value chain that has to really get fixed. And once that gets fixed, that will then have a cascading beneficial impact on everybody else in the value chain, whether generating companies, coal companies, renewable energy companies, equipment manufacturers, etc. So that is the part that the government is really focusing on, and absolutely correctly so. In addition to that, yesterday the government did announce some more work in terms of or effort towards privatization of DISCOMs, and they've said that all UT DISCOMs will get privatized eventually, and that in some ways then paves the way for further improvement and privatization of the entire DISCOM sector. So the focus of the government very much has been to make sure that there is systemic and structural reform measures to improve the functioning of the entire power value chain, power sector, which will then lead to a much more healthier sector in the longer run. So I think all the things that the government has announced are very, very wholesome, very positive for the sector. And when you couple that along with the Electricity Act amendments that the government has also now put the draft policy out for, I think once that also gets passed, the whole power sector structure and architecture will really improve dramatically and will lead to a much, much better and more sustainable sector, which will hopefully therefore be able to attract a lot more investment, to your question, going forward as well in the future.
But isn't that what everybody really now wants to know? And that's a question I throw to both Mr. Shukla as well as Mr. Gupta, that how much more investments can India attract post these reforms? Because that really is going to be the big game changer, because government can turn around and say, look, my finances are stretched, states are asking me for reliefs, I'm turning around and giving them more extra borrowings, which I frankly shouldn't, because my GST collections are at record low. Now I have to attract fresh investments. Can we expect that to happen after today's closure of the stimulus package announcements? Mr. Shukla.
Yes, investments will not be an issue as far as defense and aerospace sector is concerned. Whether private sector investments within India or investment from outside, both will happen as per the purchase orders or the procurement which is expected in the coming years. So that is not a constraint. As we are able to afford and buy equipment, defense is a single customer situation. It is not like soap, shampoo and others, where you just set up a unit and wait or try to get a market share or try to sell.
Okay.
In defense, there are certain specific items and then there are running items. The specific items, only when there is an order coming, you set up a unit to produce those items. Because you cannot set up a unit, produce the items and start selling to anybody cannons or rifles. You can't do that. So
no, but then I'll tell you what, sir. I'll ask you this, that in defense, the experts have all along said that India has not been able to take off as far as defense manufacturing is concerned, is because some of the other crippling policy handicaps have not been addressed. Have they been addressed now, sir, is my question.
We have a strategic partner policy in place, which is moving forward well. we expect that decisions and strategic partner policy will begin. This is the policy which envisages that private sector companies and foreign OEMs will team up to produce equipment within the country. Now, that is something which is taking shape and it will happen. Now, business, how it happens, defense industry, more so than any consumer product industry, operates on an ecosystem. It is different. I'm just giving an example. If you are making tomato ketchup, you buy tomato sauce, add few spices, boil,
Right.
steam, and you can make.
Yes.
In defense, there is a whole ecosystem. We cannot talk small and medium companies independent of the large companies. So if you are going to make a tank, armored vehicle,
Right.
helicopter, you will have hundreds of people around those companies who will be producing parts, components, sub-assemblies
Okay.
for these. So automatically the release of large orders on Indian companies or Indian joint ventures creates an ecosystem where hundreds of other units actually become suppliers. Take, for example, a vehicle or Scorpio or XUV, which we make in Mahindra. Somebody supplies windscreen, somebody supplies tires, somebody supplies tubes, hubs, brakes, seat covers, windscreen wiper. There will be hundreds of people making things which go into a final product. Same thing is true for all products in defense.
Okay.
A armored vehicle may be costing 1 crore of rupees, but bulk of it will be going to small scale companies who supply parts and components for that.
Okay.
So this is the important point. As strategic partner policy starts releasing procurement orders,
Okay.
you will see entire ecosystem taking off.
Okay. And Mr. Kirloskar, that has the potential for creating large scale jobs, because Mr. Gupta, I'm going to come to you, sir. Give me a minute. I'm going to come to you. Mr. Kirloskar, at the end of the day, unless and until we create large scale manufacturing, large scale employment potential, we are really not moving forward. I want to ask you this, as somebody who is in the auto sector, one of the worst affected. I want to ask you, sir, that both in terms of manufacturing and some of the other crippling policy handicaps, have they been largely addressed?
Let me get back to the basic of the auto sector. You got some more details earlier as well. What I have seen in our manufacturing, and I have compared our costs in India, we make similar products like engines and gearboxes compared to Toyota in Indonesia or Thailand or USA and Europe. And we are very, very, very competitive. I can assure you that we are exporting engines and gearboxes. And basically the whole Indian automotive component industry is also very competitive. The whole industry is, I think, exports of $30 billion or something. It's a very competitive industry. So I think the growth story of the Indian automobile industry is still here to stay. We are going through we are going through an issue right now. We'll have to make sure we do everything possible to get out of it in a very confident manner. But the India story on manufacturing, where we have capital equipment makers in India, we have good raw material in India, and we have good skills in India, is here to stay. And there's nothing that will get over that. We have a good market as well. Okay, we'll get over this COVID.
But I'll tell you why I'm asking, sir. I'll tell you why, sir.
What we need, I'll tell you. Can I just finish?
Yes, sir.
When I look at the issues which have been hurting us at times, it's not our ex-factory cost so much. There's a lot of cost outside our factories in terms of logistics and taxes and various other areas. And those we have to compare with our competitors, whether in China or Vietnam and other parts of the world, and bring down. We have brought this to the notice of the government. We've talked enough about it. I think I'm pretty confident they're addressing it. Okay, and some of the things they have brought about in this, especially on ease of doing business, will certainly help us drop those costs. There are labor reforms and land reforms which are being done by the states. I think that those will help us also improve our cost of doing business. On labor, I want to be very clear. I'm not saying, remove XYZ acts and all. I'm saying we need flexibility in our working.
Okay.
We need protection for labor, and we need laws which align the labor and the employer and the employee
Okay.
in the direction of growth.
Okay, sir, then let me ask you, there are two aspects to this conversation. One is to recover from the shock,
Yes.
and second is to capture some of the opportunity that lies in terms of the global anti-China sentiment. You know, everybody is saying if we don't want to be in China, there is just so much of a business risk and so on and so forth. But for them to actually shift lock, stock, barrels, do a very expensive, long-drawn proposition of shifting supply chains, are we offering them a lucrative proposition? That's really two legs of this entire argument. Now help us understand, sir, are we able to address both these?
Hey, listen, I'm trying to get business from China. You know, whether people leave China and all that is one story, it's their issue. People will buy from us not because they don't like China, it's only if we are competitive. That is, we have good quality, good cost, and good delivery. Let's be clear about that. Okay, so we have to keep working on our fundamentals, work on cost, quality, delivery,
Okay.
and then we get the business. And as well as volume, the Chinese have been able to show that they can ramp up the volumes and the delivery very, very fast. We have to figure out how to do that, for which we require the land reforms
Okay.
and the ability to build a new factory.
All right.
So don't get. I think we should keep this China story out of our minds. That just because there's a problem, people will come automatically to us. We have to earn that right by being competitive.
I'm glad somebody has said that in so many words, because so much of talk has happened. For it to actually translate into business, a lot more needs to be done. I'm glad that an industry captain has said that. Okay, so we Neeraj Gupta, as co-chair of the Defence Export Committee, I want to bring you in, and then we get in Sunil Duggal as well. He is, of course, CEO of Hindustan Zinc and also chairman of the CII National Committee on Mining. But Neeraj Gupta, your two bits as far as capacity and prospect of employment generation, because unless and until we create large scale jobs here, we really are not looking at a roadmap or not creating a roadmap for lifting everybody out from economic doom and gloom that we are all in right now.
So, first of all, with regards to defense, I would say it's a real push again in the direction of Make in India. And with regards to defense technology, it's not something that can be built overnight. It takes years and years of investment and effort. So my personal view is that government has announced 74% foreign direct investment in defense as well. So what it means is that foreign OEMs who are trying to give the technology straight away to the Indian partner now will have the control and the liberty to invest into a company. The majority are controlling stocks in the company. So that will make them comfortable. And I will give you this as an example. Why?
Okay.
Because I was personally making a joint venture in one of the BRIC countries, and the whole JV did not go through because we were looking at 51 because we did not wanted to give our technology.
Okay.
The local partner, he wanted to have a control.
Okay.
So he wanted 51%. So finally, we could not move forward. So my personal view, 74% is a big welcome.
Okay.
Second thing, the faster decision making will always give a boost to Indian defense industry,
Okay.
which is a very cumbersome process as of now.
Okay.
Plus, foreign OEMs coming into India will give boost to offsets and to exports as well. So these are my views as far as defense
All
policy
right.
is
So
concerned.
I'm going to come back and ask you about technology transfer. But as I said, I want to bring in Sunil Duggal as well, the CEO of Hindustan Zinc, Vedanta company. Mr. Duggal, I want to ask you first and foremost about the measures that were announced yesterday, coupled with all, several part series where the FM has explained how the 20 lakh crore will be spent. Are you satisfied? Are you happy? Do you think this will do justice to the kind of colossal economic damage that COVID has done to the Indian economy?
Of course, the COVID has done the damage, but if you also look at the mineral mining fuel industry in India. So 50% of the forex is spent on these sectors. So the GDP contribution, which was around 1.5% from the mining industry, mining and mineral industry, which has come down, if you ask me, in the last 5 years. And it was already very low, and government was thinking that some reform should be brought, but I think the COVID situation has accelerated those reforms, and government has come up with certain declarations as such. We will also wait for the fine print as to what are the details of that, but it looks that the government has decided to auction
But sir, I want you to clarify one thing, sir, which is that commercial mining has been allowed. It's been almost a year. It has seen a very tepid response. Also, the fact that some of the changes in the regulations were brought about earlier this year through the Act of Parliament, but it hasn't really changed or really lifted the sector, so to say. So, in your assessment, what could be the next follow-up measures that the government could do from here on?
So, government is talking that there will be seamless transition from exploration to the mining license. But they are also talking that this will be auction. I'm not sure what will be auction. So, some of the data which you have from your government agencies, which you can auction. But if you actually benchmark with the global industry, what it is, that the junior mining exploration company do the exploration, and they, after they discover, they sell it to the mining company, and there is a seamless transition from the exploration to the mining and the production regime. But in our country, what we are saying that we will still auction. The question is that who will generate the data? The exploration is the basic thing, and which is a very, very risky thing. Globally, if you ask me, even after putting up the target and doing the drilling, 1 out of the 100 exploration license converts into the mining lease and the production mining.
Okay, then before I get in Sumant Sinha, I want to ask you this: that from here on, will these measures translate into, let's say, an increase in the GDP contribution of mining sector, of overall mineral sector? Because it's been hailed as a big reform, but for it to follow through in terms of actual contribution towards economy, where is the gap, sir, or is there a gap?
You see, these are very welcome steps. The government says that the 550 licenses will be auctioned, composite licenses will be auctioned, and wherever and whatever state they will be auctioned. I think this will attract a lot of global and the local players to participate in the action. But other thing for which also the reforms are required is the land acquisition, forest diversion, environment clearances. So all these regulatory clearances also take a longer time. Government also has to assure that whether they can tag the clearances, forest clearances, environment clearances, and land clearances, along with the auction leases. If they can do it, then the mining in these blocks can start in the next 6 to 12 months' time. But if these are not attached, this may take even much longer duration.
Okay, then Sumant, let me then ask you this. I know all sectors are largely integrated at some level, and again the effort is to simplify all of this for our viewers that who are watching this broadcast with only one thing in keeping in mind, that is this going to change my economic destiny from here on? Because if I am struggling in terms of either looking at the prospect of not having a job, or my salary cut, or having a business which has mounting debts and may not be able to survive the COVID crisis, am I then looking at my economic prospect brighter after what has happened today, or the set of announcements that have happened in the last couple of days, Sumant? That's really the big question. Sumant.
Yeah, no, I think, look, there are a lot of different things that have been announced by the government for a lot of different sectors. Clearly, one of the biggest announcements was the loan program for the MSMEs. MSMEs, as you know, employ a tremendous number of people. So the fact that those types of companies can now start getting loans collateralized by the government or guaranteed by the government with no collateral, I think that's a very big positive. That will immediately start putting more spending money in the hands of the smaller companies and smaller now. The whole definition also has been redone as it should have been. And so more companies will fall under the ambit of that definition. So I think that is a very big positive. Then for the poorer people, I think a lot of schemes have been announced, and they're just too numerous for me to even mention. But the government is trying to certainly put a lot more money into people's pockets through Jan Dhan and through direct benefit transfer, through schemes like MMREGA with more allocations, and so on. And then there are a lot of structural reforms, as you know, that have happened as well. So I think in the immediate term, there are a lot of good things that the government has announced that will therefore put more money in the hands of the small companies or individuals, which should hopefully slowly begin to drive an upliftment or an improvement in the economic situation. As I said, perhaps it could have been a larger amount, or it could have been more immediate, more direct. It could have been some monetary policy interventions of a slightly bigger nature by the RBI to pull interest rates down perhaps a little bit more. That is something that has always been an issue for the corporate sector as to why interest rates are so high. And even though the RBI has cut rates, they're still at 4% plus. So yes, there is a lot of stuff that has been done. More could have been done. But I think it's really in long-term structural factors that I think we have to look at much more deeply. Because I think there is a lot that the government has announced from a long-term structural improvement standpoint. And I think all of that will not in the next 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 months, but certainly in the next 1 or 2 or 3 years, will begin to start having a much bigger impact on economic growth and so on. If, for example, FDI in defense will hopefully lead to a lot more investments of FDI into India, more domestic manufacturing, the whole thrust to get more people to start making in India, moving from China into India.
Okay.
I think that will also, be a big driver of further investment.
But then let me then ask you, you mentioned in terms of more money in the hands of people, and I'll ask this to the whole panel. In fact, I was just, some of the numbers that were announced today, the FM said that 33,176 crore is the amount of money that's been disbursed directly. The breakup of that is over 10,000 crore in terms of Jan Dhan accounts. Old age and other pensions is 2,800 crores. Construction works driven payouts is 3,900 crore. And through PM Kisan Yojana, farmers have been given 16,394 crores. So in total, we are actually talking about something that's less than 35,000 crore. It's 33,176 crore to be precise. Several others are schemes and measures that some of them may have been announced intentionally earlier and may be followed through right now. But do you think 33,176 crore in terms of direct benefits into people's accounts is adequate?
No, obviously I don't. If those numbers are correct, and I have no way of verifying that at this very moment.
These are numbers that the FM announced today, sir. I'm not making up any of these numbers.
Fair enough. It's just that, the government may, look at the numbers a little bit differently in terms of what they're actually putting into people's pockets very quickly. You may have taken certain schemes, the government may want to look at different schemes and so on. So anyway, I'm not getting into that. Just as an absolute number, 33,000 crores obviously in this environment is a small number. But, we should obviously have had a much bigger number. But, for example, even that MSME loan scheme of 3 lakh crores, that's a huge amount. And I think a lot of that should get drawn down. And if it does, then that again puts money in the hands of their employees eventually, because it will go to pay people's salaries. It will go to get the supply chain started as well as these MSMEs start to produce. So I think all of that will ultimately result in an improvement in short-term demand.
Let me then ask this to the entire panel, the entire CEO's panel, that the measures that have been announced, particularly with respect to the MSME insolvency measures, whether it is in terms of the threshold being raised, whether the COVID debt will be exempted from IBC, no fresh insolvency cases for 1 year, essentially a special insolvency framework for MSMEs. Mr. Kirloskar, let me start with you. I go through the panel, then I get in Mr. Duggal as well. How significant is this, especially in the backdrop of MSMEs contributing a quarter of India's services GDP? Mr. Kirloskar.
This will be very significant if the buyer industry, the people to whom MSME supplies to, first pays all the dues of MSMEs at the same time and make sure that they support the MSMEs. I think it's not MSMEs can't live independently by themselves, even with loan funding. The loan funding is excellent. It's a huge amount. I know from CI we had asked for roughly 2 lakh crores, we got 3 lakh crores, and it's far beyond what we had expected. But we are also expecting all public sector units, whether they're state control or center control, other government units and other large purchasers, please pay the MSME dues as fast as you can. And that will make that combined with this will certainly make a big difference for the MSMEs. They'll have to struggle a bit, but I think the combination will take them out and we have a chance to go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Duggal, then let me ask you this. In terms of MSMEs, India's their contribution to manufacturing is 6.11%. Their contribution to India's services GDP is 24.6%, and a new insolvency framework for them. How significant this will be, because this will ensure that they have some cushion against mounting debts due to coronavirus lockdown?
Well, I think this will provide the liquidity to them, and the immediate stress and the tension is gone. At least they are not struggling. But it is all about what my friend said, that how the payment will be made. But it is more like a circular economy, which the cycle has to come. So the real thing is their payments are released, the demand picks up. So until the total cycle restarts, and how long the cycle will take to go back to the normal behavior what it was before the COVID had happened. So we have to wait for that. Government may have to come again. Depends on how the coronavirus spreads, whether the demand picks up or not, whether the moratorium they will provide, the support they will provide, the liquidity they will provide is enough or not. But in the current situation, at least some respite is there, and they are able to breathe, and the tension is released, I would say.
And what do you say about the privatization of public enterprises? I think that could be extremely significant. In fact, it could just be a second disinvestment policy that the government may have announced.
That is the real thing. So the government has to think very, very bold. And this is a very bold step. And some of the success story like Hindustan Zinc, where I am working, is a real success story. So the production has come 10 times, and the profit from 100 crore, near 100 crore has crossed 10,000 crores. And the government has a share of 30%. What they used to get and what they get in terms of dividend today is 3,000, 4,000 crore per annum. So I think similar success stories are there with the other public sector. So it is, government has no business to be in the business, I would say. So they will facilitate regulation, they should facilitate rules, they should enable the private sector. And by this, I think the kind of resources the public sector has, private sector does not have. So if all the public sector will be privatized except that the strategic ones, this will de-bottleneck these resources to very, very large extent.
Okay.
This will give a flip.
Okay. Mr. Shukla, how do you see both these aspects? First, the MSME insolvency framework obviously attempted to ensure as much cushioning that can be provided during these uncertain times.
Companies, and then there are individuals. First and foremost, as far as individual segment is concerned, family segment employees, survival is the most important thing. And that is where through Jan Dhan and other schemes, if government is putting money in their hand, that allows them to survive. A large part of their expenditure goes to food. So to that extent, they will pick up fruit, vegetables, cereals, pulses. A large part of that expenditure goes towards consumption of day-to-day necessities, essentially food. So it has to be seen in that context. It is not something which will revive a large industry. It is for survival of that segment and to be seen in that context. organized. Then we come to medium and small scale industry. They do not live on their own. Most of them are vendors to larger companies, excepting those in service sector who are serving consumer economy. But large number of manufacturing units in MSME are actually in turn vendors to large companies. So their most important thing is if large companies have slowdown in demand, if they are delaying payments, smaller units should not close down. So there, the right thing to do is give loans, loan guarantees, delay their insolvency proceedings. There, what is being done, that small and medium sector stays, survives
Okay.
till the time demand picks up, and that is when it starts serving again the demand.
Okay.
As far as larger industry is concerned, it has to wait for demand. Let us remember, India is 6th largest manufacturing country in the world.
Yes.
Among the top 10, we are number 6. It is not that our manufacturing sector does not exist. We are the 6th largest in the world.
Okay.
Our manufacturing accounts for 17% of our GDP. And just in case numbers are not very familiar in the wider audience, it is not very different from Germany or Japan. They also operate within 1 or 2% of 17% where
Okay.
India is.
Okay.
Keeping these numbers in mind, we have to understand manufacturing operates as part of overall GDP.
Okay.
Demand for manufacturing comes from overall economy. So it is the overall economy within which manufacturing operates, and 3 sectors, large, small, medium, and individuals are symbiotic relationship.
Okay.
Everybody has needs which have to be addressed separately.
Okay.
I believe the 20 lakh crore which has been announced in last 5 days, it has been very well targeted towards 3 distinct segments.
Okay. Then, Mr. Kirloskar, let me ask you this. Then I get in Neeraj Gupta also on the disinvestment intent that has been announced by the government today.
No, it's good. I think they're very clear. They don't want to be in the business of doing business, except for the strategic areas where they said there'll be minimum 1 or 4, 2, 3, 4, whatever public sector units. It's very, very good. I hope it gets done fast. I don't know what pricing they'll get when they disinvest right now. But I think, as the speaker earlier said, look at what you can potentially get in terms of dividend when you do this well. If they're better run, like Hindustan Zinc has the case of Hindustan Zinc, he explained. I think we have to look at both and, in a prudent way, dispose them off.
Okay. And how soon do you think that could happen, and how significant that could be in terms of lifting private sector sentiment? Because, one can turn around and say that, right now there is no money or not adequate in funds that may be available for disinvestment and privatization.
See, for me, the only thing that will lift my sentiments is how many orders for cars will come tomorrow. So
Yes.
that is what will really boost my sentiment. I think some of my other friends is here as well. Is how many, whether tractors or cars or refrigerators and other things, how many will people start ordering tomorrow? That is what we need right now. Okay? And that requires confidence in the economy, confidence in the country, and confidence that you have a life ahead. I think that's what we should focus on. I believe this 20 lakh crores is a direction towards doing that. Let's, that we can be nitty picky and say this is right and this is wrong, and small little bit here and little bit less. I think, Mike, I really have confidence in this government in the last 6-7 weeks of discussions that they're willing to relook at these issues and recorrect themselves. So let's try to put a picture of confidence as well as responsibility on ourselves that we have to somehow get a return on this 20 lakh crores. This is our future children's money
Yes.
which we are spending ahead of time.
Yes.
Okay, and it's important that this money is spent so that there's a profit on this 20 lakhs and the loans are returned. That I think that's very vital, and we need to keep looking after ourselves, looking after our country, looking after society with confidence. That's what we need to do right now.
Yes. Neeraj Gupta, you want to come in there in terms of both the privatization aspect and what Mr. Kirloskar said, that what is the kind of return that we can expect on this huge stimulus that the finance minister has announced?
With regards to privatization or disinvestment, I would say it's a welcome step. Like, for example, ordnance factories corporatization has been announced or it will follow. So the feeling is that it will have greater return on investment because efficiencies will improve. It's the taxpayers' money. So it's a very welcome step, first of all. And second thing, with regards to the stimulus package, I talk specifically about MSME. The banking support is good because that gives an immediate oxygen to MSME companies because a lot of their money was stuck up whether in stocks or whether in outstandings or something. So this will give immediate oxygen to the MSMEs. Second, it will boost the sentiment of the entire sector, the whole package of 20 lakhs crores. So this has really improved the Indian economy. Now, as it will improve the sentiments, the consumption will grow, right? And the mood will be more optimum, and that will keep the money circulating. So what is very important right now, that companies or people should not stick to the money and hold on to it. It should, as fast as it starts circulating into the economy, it will help everyone, large, medium, individuals, everyone.
Okay, that's really what the key is, Mr. Kirloskar, isn't it? To ensure that money really starts circulating in the economy.
Yes.
Can we then expect that to happen right now, Mr. Kirloskar? And then I get it, Mr. Shukla as well.
It's not like lighting a burner under a pan.
Absolutely. Okay. I wish it was, but it isn't. Yes.
I think it's a slower process than that. It's not going to happen instantly. But I think I do believe with confidence. I see the numbers of orders coming in for cars every day. I'm following it. It's slowly increasing. I see factories slowly opening up. You see, you do see migrant labor going back, but we haven't heard much about farming, and we haven't heard much about agricultural production. But I hear from my friends in the coffee estates near Bangalore that the harvest had started. They've had a good harvest.
Okay.
So I'm just looking. These are we have to look for some good news also around the country.
Absolutely.
And publicize that to lift the sentiment.
All right.
And encourage people to buy.
All right. As we wrap up,
I'm very optimistic on India. It's going to be a tough to go ahead. It's going to take a lot of work, but we will get ahead, and we'll certainly do it.
Absolutely. And closing comments from Mr. SP Shukla as we wrap this up.
I'm taking cue from Vikram. Let's talk about agri for a minute. I also look after agri sector for the group. Agri is picking up well. Activities have not been as affected as it was in industrial sector. In fact, going back of a lot of migrant workers in the rural areas, in the states which are less centralized,
yes,
less industrialized, it is actually immediate boost is there in those areas in agriculture activity. While it may affect movement of workers, will affect people moving from Punjab, Haryana. But those own states, it is working. Harvesting has begun. In fact, challenge was only the transportation of agricultural commodities from rural areas to urban areas. As gradual opening up has begun in green and orange areas, that is getting facilitated. I do believe agriculture might become one bright spot coming forward in next few months.
All right, Mr. SP Shukla, Mr. Kirloskar, Mr. Gupta, Sunil Duggal, Mr. Sumant Sinha, top CEOs of India Inc. Thanks much for speaking to us after Nirmala Sitharaman's stimulus announcements. The finance minister detailed all that has been announced for the Indian economy.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.